Bing bong. Hello, it's the Modern Fowler Scrum. We have Sam and Nico and Marianne. And it is Monday. It is actually a national holiday here in the UK, but I kind of decided to work anyway because we couldn't really work out what to do. Children off school, so I'm getting a bit distracted. But I basically spent the last hour working on these Node Cucumber. No, they're not Cucumber tests, but on Node tests failing on Mac for this private project and blogging about it and trying to make progress there. What else have I got going on? I guess I'm not. We're still the big block continues to be this. Gosh, what's it called? The Jitsi Docker file thing, which I guess we will be discussing in the Elixir mob, which is coming up in about 40 minutes. We've also got the coming up today. We've got the Autograder meeting, AV community meeting later on today, and yeah, I guess I'm not blocked, but I guess the other things, the two big things I should be doing are sorting out the AGM conference and the accounts for Agile Ventures. So, gosh, paperwork. Anyway, that's me. Nico, how are things going with you?
Yeah, I did a little research on the changes that we had on the schema on website 1, and the problem was that I was using the dump from production, and that it caused the changes when I ran the migrations. So when I went back to the development database that I was using, I ran the migrations again, and everything was fine. But that was why I pushed the changes on the schema. And the other thing, I will take a look to the library that you shared the other day in order to replace Mercury for the documents on website 1. And yeah, I will be working on that. So no blockers.
All right, great stuff. Thank you, Nico. Wonderful. Mariam, how are things going with you?
I've been trying to figure out the air brake issues. I'm still still haven't found the reason for the errors. And also last week I did a pull request for the changes you asked there, and in email notifications.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have any blockers now.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well that's our Scrum, and we're into the after Scrum mode. Yes, and then so Mariam's got a new pull request. So this is the one for letter opener and some other further changes. Oh, fantastic. Good show. Yeah, letter opener is a gem that I forget the name of the fellow who introduced us to it. I remember us getting set up with it on local support. Basically, it's all about making sure that you don't accidentally open the. Well, it's great for running locally when things would send an email. It instead opens them in another browser window. So
I think that's what caused the issue, because you said that in the develop and the staging environment, we have dummy emails, so we got those errors.
Maybe. Yes, I think it's probably related there. I think just as I'm looking at it, I think letter opener might not help that problem because its letter opener I think will only run in development mode. The develop and staging servers, because they're running on Heroku, are still running in production mode. So this is definitely a good thing to have. So let's not remove it. We might. Tiny thing here is there are all of these are single quotes, and so we've added double quotes there. But generally, we want to kind of follow the the similar syntax to around us. It's not a big deal. But better having it than not having it. And then so this is now the slightly all right. We've got the HTML version. Yay! So the links can be hyperlinks. Fantastic. And yeah, they might need to be HTTPSs. We're not necessarily always handling the direction fantastically well. I think that will probably work. Let's. Oh gosh. We're just. I think we've got that probably works fine, doesn't it? Yes, and it redirects to the HTTPS. we've got a slight problem, I think, with if you try to do, and this is something else we should fix. I think if we try to do that or that, oh, maybe it is all working now. Okay, you're not to worry. So that's fine. Yeah, and then that's just adjusting the text thing, breaking that out into the separate things. Wonderful. Looks great. I mean, I guess one could argue for a test. We shouldn't really have testing the formatting of the email particularly. So let's merge that in.
The screenshots.
Yep. That's very handy to add those. Good show. Let's get that in, and we'll get that deployed. But yeah, we'll see about. So I guess the other thing is, so you were saying that you're looking at the errors. I guess, have we had any of those? We did. So I guess unless you've closed them, Airbrake hasn't alerted us to any new errors.
It's about it's an old one.
Yeah. So yeah, the one that you were referring to before is the old one, and it's about like there previously had been like 15 or 16 of them, and Nico had sort of collapsed them down into one single thing. Yeah, this one here. So that was all the different issues there. And then, I mean, the only thing that connects this thing with the ones that we were seeing on develop and staging are the fact that we see this undefined local variable or method env. Like that might be a red herring. It might it might be completely unrelated. There's something. We just got to go and have a look at one of these. But it might also just be the way they're handling errors. So what this one? Oh, this is a different one. This is undefined method count for action controller parameters. No, but it says up there undefined local variable or method end for, in this case, is the user's controller. But yeah, they're very confusing errors.
Yep. The messages are not.
Yeah,
the only thing that I read when I was grouping them, it was the error message that you highlighted there.
Yeah, and it's funny because you get this error message about this thing in the user controller, but then the backtrace
like seems unrelated.
Yeah,
I mean, when it's something. Yeah, we've got it's an action view template error, and then we've got an issue for
count.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, the funny thing is, what we're not getting from here is like, what's the line number on which
this is that is where it's failing. Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's telling us that it's kind of in users show,
but it doesn't exist. I checked that and it doesn't really exist.
Sorry, you say it doesn't exist, Marion?
Yeah, the method count.
Env.
Yeah.
Doesn't appear in users show.
Yeah, both of them don't appear in users show.
Neither env nor count.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think the well, I mean, one possibility is it's just like Airbrake craziness that doesn't make any sense. Another possibility is that, I mean, when the show operation is called, it's then rendering the template, and there's all sorts of Rails machinery, presumably somewhere underneath, in the Rails machinery of making all of this stuff, to actually display the template and turn it into HTML. Presumably, env is called on some, like the thing is like, there's some extent to which, like, if we go and look at users show, for example, let's go and look at that one, and I know that you've seen it already. I'm just gonna is this is all the things, but yeah, it's not clear to what extent we should necessarily be worrying too much about those errors. The fact that we can't run the we can't manually do certain tests on develop and staging is much. Oh gosh, that's the wrong thing. it is a much higher concern. Just quickly pull up this code to look at the show thing. So that's in the context of, come here, you. So we've got the app, and we've got the controllers, and we've got the users controller, and we've got the show method somewhere. Presumably, here we go. So like, you know, yeah. So env and count not mentioned here, and presumably, if the error had occurred like somewhere in here, we would get back, you know, something from there. But the thing to keep in mind, as I think you both know, is that when we finish the show method, there's kind of an implicit call to render the show template, right? I mean, whatever it happens to be. What's that? Sorry. So that render machinery is taking place, and presumably, if we come back to, you know, there are points at which, you know, like there are action controller parameters, like there are certain implicit, like this rendering operation is presumably merging the params with the thing, and it kind of has a reference to the user controller that it's on. Do you know what I mean? Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Perhaps a long-winded way of saying something that you already knew, but I mean, the other thing is there was a problem that we were not getting any of these errors mentioned at all before, and we've got like a custom error handling framework, which kind of there's definitely as well. There's some pages that you can go to, like the 21st page of the projects, and we end up getting like a 404 error, and there's definitely some weird stuff going on somewhere. Whether we'll ever get to the bottom of it, I don't know. I find the thing that's related to the custom error. Oh, you're looking in that. No, look in the whole thing for me. I'm not gonna be able to find it quickly enough. Oh gosh, there was a thing that I changed in order so that we could actually start getting more of the error. Is this error logging service? Is that?
That is the service we are using for logging,
right?
The errors, but we are not using the show action.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, forget the show action. I was just there's something that we've got. There's something that I think we've got another, like, custom. I think there's a custom error set up in order to try and.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it
was there. I think you were.
In library.
Yeah, require custom errors. There we go. So we've got a custom error module, and then I don't even know where it is. Here we go. Yeah, here. So we've got this thing.
Okay.
Right. So we've got the. I mean, it's in terms of understanding everything that's going on with the error message and so on. It's important to be aware of this. That gets pulled into. I was saying it gets pulled into the top level application controller, and so we've got this custom error module, right? And so then it's basically what it's doing here is it's kind of overriding our the standard Rails error handling, and so it's saying if we get a general exception, then rather than displaying that to the user or whatever we're doing in production mode anyway, we render this 500 error. And if we get various of these things, like saying, you know, no action on the different controllers or its active record, then it's like show a 404. And so you can hear, and this is what I had to add to make sure that air brake would actually detect the errors. So we got here, it's a check. Are we running in production mode? Yeah. If we are running in production mode, then actually pass that onto the air brake. Otherwise, it sort of does this, and I don't know that was, you know, I don't think this was necessarily hooked up or it's broken or what have you. Like I think this was a custom, like prior to having air brake in the system, this was a custom solution to say when there is an error, try and let us know that it happened.
Yeah.
And this was trying to send emails and then failing itself. And then you see like these different, you know, pages that we see that say something went horribly wrong and that silly I thing are all handled through here. And you know, I think like it would be much better and more professional if instead of it saying over the 500 error something went horribly wrong, it would say we're terribly sorry, we had a problem, and there was a form to allow people to email to tell, you know, to send us a message to say what they were doing when they had the problem and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's all by the by. So you know, I wonder if there's an extent to which, you know, we're getting, I mean, we're trying to, I think here we've got air brake build notice error. We're trying to pass information about the error message to air brake, but maybe it's not getting the whole stack trace or anyway.
Yeah.
So good to be aware of that code. More importantly is that we've got this issue for, I don't, did I even make a, like, did I take a copy of the error? Did I put that? So the new project follow fails on develop and staging. Yeah, so this, and so you were looking at this one, right, Mariam? And so this error message here, an error occurred when sending a notification using email notifier. So there we get this undefined local variable or method n for projects controller here, and then couldn't find static page with ID 500.
Mm. I didn't understand why it did get the static pages controller, because the one handling this is the project's controller.
Right. I think what's happening here is, and that's really where the thing that we've just been looking at makes sense. So like originally, basically it's tried to send an email on staging and, you know, it's not set up for it or what have you. We would like it to fail gracefully. And I mean, ideally it would like use the letter opener or something for us. Whether it can do that in production mode, I'm not sure. And so then it has it's funny though. I mean, maybe these are two separate errors. They seem like there's this. I guess that sort of implies that this error was thrown while trying to do that operation in the project's controller, and then potentially something about the error handling as the project controller tries to manage the passing of that error, we get this maybe. But we can see here, look, custom errors RB26. So custom errors here are on 26. Is it really that? Custom errors. Line 26. Yeah, so I mean, at least we're in render. Sorry, go on, Nico.
You're trying to access M there, but where is M?
There's env there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that should be rails.env there.
Yeah, that is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. But so there's that error.
Maybe. I don't know. Just looking at it.
You might be right. Then we've got this other thing, which is static pages control. I mean, I think the reason that the static pages controller gets involved is here we're trying to render static pages here. So there's kind of, you know, presumably the status was like 500. I don't know. I mean, I think it's like trying to do like a number of things, like it's the errors, multiple errors have failed. But so I like when I look at this thing and that this is failing, that makes it look to me like it's trying to, you know, something down here is happening and it's trying to manage displaying the internal error, but it's like misinterpreted the 500 as an ID instead of a, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But certainly looking at that superficially, I mean, I don't even know what that grape request is. That looks to me like, I mean, I think this was code that I think I got from Airbrake. which if we can just go and look at very briefly here, which is like air brake. What was it? It was like throw a custom error from Rails code. So now kind of spell. Runtime error handling. Is there, not immediately seeing something. Anyway, so I think we probably want to finish up, but was that even just code that we had before that I moved from one place to another? Okay, air brake. Was there even? So somebody here is using very similar code. Here.
There.
So this is like somebody doing this. Not clear. I mean, it's the air brake builders. Anyway. So at least I don't know. I hope that's helpful, Mariam, in as much as you know, you might be able to dig through the code. I mean, in some ways, what you need to be able to do is to be able to test on develop and try it, or even deploy to a Heroku instance yourself, running in production to, or even if you just like run in production mode locally. Does that make any sense?
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, so in principle, you can run in production mode locally just by putting like Rails env equals production and then run like this. Now, probably it will fail because it will ask for like an air brake key and this thing, and I haven't this, that, and the other. But in principle, you can. That's probably the simplest way to go. Okay. It then may fail, and you need to set like you know, an air brake key ID 1 2 3 4 5, and you know, just if that makes any sense. But yeah, but Nico and I can help you that, and in the website one DevOps gets it up, all of that. So anyway, I mean, is it interesting? Maybe you'll get sick of it, but if you're to the extent that you continue being interested in the problem, it would be a great one to solve.
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Cool beans. I should go. I guess the only other thing is Nico, is that this. So the schema thing now. So that's weird because I run locally with production data, and I didn't seem to have. I mean, maybe it's all about versions of Postgre, and who knows.
Maybe you didn't run the migrations and just use the database.
Oh right, yeah. I don't think I ran the migrations on the. Yeah, that's probably true. Have you now put a pull request in to revert the schema to what it was, or
I think that Nick. I don't know why I thought that maybe Nick was going to push the changes on the schema, but I can create another pull request just for modifying it back. So yeah.
Yeah, that might be good.
Yeah, cool. I will make it now.
That's great. We've got Xiaohong Deng in the install thing saying that he mentions the schema change, although I don't think that's the cause of his problem. He's saying that all the tests ran, but he now can't run these. I mean, I guess we need to ask him, like.
Yeah, I think that may be related to.
Yeah, maybe it will be. We'll see. Nisevi is going to fix the schema shortly. But I mean, I guess that may be because he's got. I
don't know where he left.
Conflict.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. He needs to bring a lot of changes.
What
to website one.
Errors are you getting specifically? We are now on Rails 5, etc. Yeah, so we'll see. We need more information from him about that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. Good stuff. Well, I'll see you folks in another Scrum later today or tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.